Hello everyone, here is my wife's 2013 F350 with a Power Stroke diesel. It's a dually four-door long bed crew cab. It's a big truck. Haven't even made a video about this yet. I've been pretty busy getting it fixed up for her and ready to go on her trip tomorrow, so I'm kind of pushing it right now. But there is something that I encountered that I wanted to share with you all because I couldn't find anyone else using the same method that I did when replacing these cab bolts. And in the event you have not just the nut, the little nut spin free, the little weld break loose and then the nut spins free, that's no big deal. You just slide a 22 millimeter socket on there through the through the top here. You can see down there, just get yourself a bunch of extensions and you just slap a socket in there, and then you can hold it with a breaker bar and then just take it back off the rest of the way below. I did not use an impact. The sayings are true that those will break, but even just doing it by hand with a cheater bar and a ratchet wrench, I still managed to break the front cab bolt here. I heated it, I put PB Blaster on it, did everything, it still broke. So the biggest problem I had was that meant that the old cab mount nut was stuck. So now the nut is trapped inside its casing and the bolt is broke off in it. I can't get it out through the bottom, I can't get it out through the top, but I did manage to get it out through the side here. You'll see this little pocket here. You can kind of see like a little bit of some molten metal in there. I'll explain to you what I did, and this actually worked very well. I will definitely do it again if I run into this on the other side. Here is the old nut. As you can see, the welds broke here, and the nut began just spinning freely inside this housing. And then the bolt itself broke. So what I did was I got out my cutting torch over there. I know, tight working spaces here, right? I got out my cutting torch, and while the cab was raised, I've lowered the cab back down on this side, but while the cab was raised, I had enough space in here to get the old cab mount out. So I got the old one out, and then I used my cutting torch and I cut off the remainder of the bolt here on the bottom. However, it still wasn't enough to get out because the bolt sticking through the top was hitting on the body of the vehicle here as well, and still wouldn't come out. So what I did is I used my cutting torch as well, and I used the torch to melt down the top of the bolt that was sticking up. You can see I was able to cut this part of it off, so that worked fine there, but then I had to melt the top of this down in order to shorten the overall length and eventually drag this thing out with a large magnet. You can do it, but you have to be pretty careful because, as you can see, you've got your plastic radiator here, you've got the housing for the radiator that it sits on there, that's plastic. You got an AC line here that is rubber on the other side. You got a radiator hose. You got lots of plastic and rubber stuff here. So what I did was I got my cutting torch out and I went in on this side behind the fender liner here with the cutting torch, and I observed it from this side here. So just imagine my light is the cutting torch. Brought the cutting torch in right through here, and then you only have a few seconds because otherwise things will get too hot. You have to very quickly melt down the top of that nut and then get it back out because otherwise things are going to get too hot. Get yourself some water here and spray down that area with water to cool it down so you don't damage any of the plastics parts in there. You may have to do it 2 or 3 times, but eventually you will get that broken bolt down melted enough, as you can see like I did here. Then you're able to slide it out through that little pocket and the crisis has been averted. I just made my own, you can't really see it, I wish I took a picture of this, but I just made my own replacement cab nut, as you can see there, with a large washer and a bracket that I just attached the nut to, and that ended up working fine. So that took the place of the old cab mount nut. Just found a nut that fit the cab bolt, and now I'm gonna tighten them up, and I'm gonna do the other side as well. So If I end up running into the same problem, which I hope I don't, but if I do, I'll take a video of this, of how I cut that bolt down with the cutting torch. But this saved me a tremendous amount of time, not having to take the radiators out, the AC condenser, and all this other crap that's in the way here of this very poorly designed location for that nut, in my opinion. That saved me a ton of time and a lot of headache. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to keep going with the rest of these, and we'll see how the driver's side of the truck goes. Well, as expected, the other front cab bolt broke as well. I got a little more lucky with this one, though, because it broke off not only flush, but slightly recessed on the body of the vehicle here. Let me show you what I got here. So, as you can see there, we won't have to blast off the bottom of the remaining bolt because it broke off flush there. So that makes this a little bit easier. But that being said, we still have to melt off the remaining portion of the bolt, which is sticking through. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. There we go. There's a better view of the bolt. So you can see this part of the bolt right here is still sticking up, and it's sticking up far enough that I cannot get it through this area here. I'm gonna have to clean that out before I heat it, because otherwise that stuff's just gonna catch on fire. So I'm gonna clean all this crap out here, and then I'm just gonna get my cutting torch out again. Same thing. We're gonna spray everything down with water, so that way it stays cool and doesn't damage any of this plastic stuff that you see here. Then I'm just going to take the cutting torch and melt down the top of that, or the end of that bolt that's still sticking up, so I can slide the old cab nut out through this little opening here. Got all that crap cleaned out there, so I won't have anything that'll catch on fire. And now I'm just going to take some water here, and I'm just going to spray down this little rubber bushing, this plastic radiator support here, and that hose. Okay, I'm going to go get the cutting torch, and let's see if we can do this. All right, let's see how we did here. That was a little tricky because I had to light the torch, hold it here with one hand. This would have been a two-person job ideally. I had to come around to the front, pass my other arm through here, so I had to watch the flames coming out through here. As you can see, I kind of singed my arm hair there a little bit. And then I had to look down through the top here around the camera where you guys were looking, and through this area here. As soon as I had it lined up, I let it sit there for a few seconds and then hit the oxygen, which, you know, of course, with a cutting torch just blasts it away. So I think it should be enough. I might have to do it again, but let's see here. There we go. Got it. Not the strongest magnet. There we go. And that's it. That's how I got these out without pulling the radiator or any of that other stuff. Good old cutting torch. Again, can't be tight if it's a liquid. Now, another thing I found helpful when installing the new bolts on the new cab mounts here. Because you don't want to use an impact, take a drill, just a regular drill, and set it on the drill setting so the clutch doesn't slip. Get yourself an adapter to put a 15mm socket on the drill, and then you can just drill these up into, I say drill them up into, you just run them up into the frame like so. I'll just kind of start it here because I'm going to have to hold on to this with two hands, but you get the idea. So I'm just going to tighten these up with the drill so that way I'm not using an impact and not breaking the weld on the nuts that are still intact. Now, you can't use this method to take it off unless you just have an incredibly powerful drill. I tried mine and it didn't work, so I did have to take all of these off by hand. Just be prepared to get the workout of a lifetime when you do this. Anyway, I'm going to tighten these up here with the drill and then go back and tighten them by hand. We'll go take this for a drive and see how it goes.